How y'all doing? I know a lot of y'all are clicking on this because you love Tinkaton. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to see this with zero context and be like, what the? Oh my god, it's so broken, it's so strong. What is this guy smoking? Oh my god. Calm down. I mean, maybe I'm the one who should calm down, but I'm sure there are actually a lot of people who are going to see this and think, oh my god, it's crazy, it's so broken, it's so unbalanced. Read the description, alright? There's a lot of details about how this ROM hack works and just details about it either in text form or in video form, whichever of the two is better for you. Just pause the video and give those a read. Don't leave the video because it'll mess up with the watch time stats and stuff. But yeah, give it a pause and then give the description a read. It'll give you a lot more context as for how Pokemon balancing is handled in this ROM hack. And keep in mind, this is not competitive singles. I especially on a video like this, I don't want competitively brained people leaving comments like, ah, this is so broken. How do I explain it? So, in competitive, something as crazy as like, I don't know, just a big number, right? Oh, 125 attack, Gigaton Hammer, Steelworker, 160 power, 1.5 multiplier from Steelworker. Oh my god, nothing resisted. Oh my god, I'm switching in my core with that and I'm taking 90%. Oh my goodness, after a Swords Dance, it sweeps everything. That's not how this works. It's a ROM hack. It is a completely different dynamic. Not only do you not, it's a progression, right? That's the first thing, it's a progression. But the most important thing is you're fighting AI. You're fighting AI. You, regardless of whether or not you deal 400% or 100%, it's still killing. It doesn't matter. It's honestly overkill in a lot of cases. However, it's not in other cases. It will actually make a difference, especially for super tanky Pokemon. It can be nice to have that big Gigaton Hammer button to blow something up, or like a neutral target, like a semi-bulky neutral target. However, you're not that fast naturally, so you'll need to run Scarf or Quick Claw. And if you run Scarf, you can't you have to switch out immediately after, otherwise you'll struggle. So Gigaton Hammer, I mean, obviously yes, it's very strong with Steelworker. There is no logically, Steelworker is like the perfect ability for Tinkaton. I'm actually upset it doesn't have it in Vanilla. I think in Vanilla, if it had 75 attack and Steelworker and Gigaton Hammer, it'd be fucking dope. But this is not Vanilla. This is not competitive. This is a ROM hack where everything is much stronger and rebalanced and reworked, and it's a very thorough. I put a lot of thought and effort into this type of stuff. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, dealing 400 versus 100%, it doesn't matter. In competitive, when you're switching around, oh, let me switch into my Pokemon. Oh, then it's a problem when you have crazy damaging moves like this. But in game, for the player, it's not even that crazy of a tool. It doesn't matter how much damage you deal if you're killing, regardless. Um, However, for the AI, it's very good, but it's not like this is competitive where you're having the most optimized. You're fighting against the most optimized team at all times. It's flavor, right? So you're fighting the gym leaders, the titans, the star bases, the rivals. They all have teams based on their. I mean, because every Pokemon's good, they all have Pokemon that fit them. So Tinkaton, at most, would be on like 2 bosses across all 5 of the game paths. I mean, Poppy is definitely gonna have that. I know that much. Maybe one of the paths with probably just Poppy, honestly. And I have a really funny set cooked up for I'm not going to spoil it here, obviously, but I have a very funny set for Poppy that involves an illegal move, an AI-only move, but it's still really sick. And also, of course, it'll involve Gigaton Hammer. But anyway, yeah, and also playing against Gigaton Hammer in terms of versus the AI is a lot harder because you don't have Protect to rely on as a crutch. So, yeah. Either way, not actually broken. I'd say, honestly, the most quote-unquote broken thing here is Unburden. Hammer Time is great. That's a flavor ability, and it's also so you get all of the hammer moves on evolution, right? All of which are 120 base power. The top 3, Ice Hammer, Wood Hammer, Dragon Hammer, are recoil, and then Hammer Arm lowers your speed. So Hammer Arm's a bit of a reach, by the way. I acknowledge that, but it's the hammer Pokemon. I'd let it have it. I also was considering Crab Hammer, even though it doesn't actually make any sense. It's just a hammer pun, right? I was considering Crab Hammer, however, giving them a guaranteed flinch move like that is really broken on unburden sets because it cheeses Quick Claw for free. There's a reason I removed Protect. You know, if you read on the move guide, I mean, there's a whole section right here. You can pause and read it if you want to know why, but also just look at shit in the description on your own. I mean, there's tons of resources in there for a reason. So yeah, offensively it's obviously very good. You can still use it very well defensively, especially Tinkatuff with a Violite. As for why I dropped the HP, number one, so first of all, it's flavor, right? I like the idea that Tinkatuff and Tinkaton have the same HP stat because they're the same size Pokemon for the most part. They just, one has a giant hammer and the other one doesn't. So while the defenses get much higher because of the hammer, I think the HP should stay the same. That's my personal take on. I mean, I like basing HP a little bit more on size, especially on such a tiny. Tinkaton itself is super small. That's the whole joke. Is it's like a tiny little girly Pokemon that is like just has this giant hammer. It's the Japanese trope of like the little character with the big weapon. I mean, I don't even know if that's a Japanese thing, but the trope of that is super cool and funny, and obviously Tinkaton's a very popular Pokemon because of that. I like them. I mean, they're not like my favorite or anything. I tend to kind of dislike super popular Pokemon, but I still like them. I mean, they're a very good design, very cute, and with these changes, I would love to use one. So yeah, very versatile abilities. You have Steelworker for that big, even before you get Tinkaton Hammer at level 50, right? Which is honestly pretty generous. If I was being realistic, it should have been at like 60, 65, but because it's such a soulful move for them, I didn't want to push it too late. But at level 50, you get it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 10, 19 boss fights out of like the 40-ish. You can't do the exact math, I remember what is 18 plus 10 plus 3. 18 plus 10 plus 3. Can I not do math? Oh my god. The music is throwing me off, man. 21, 31 boss fights. So over half of the game you still have, because of the gauntlet of these last 10, you'll have a lot of Tinkaton Hammer playtime. Soul Crush is Fairy type Wicked Blow. It has the same effect. All of the Wicked Blow and Surging Strikes variants in this hack have the same effect as Tinkaton Hammer in the sense that they can't be used twice in a row. They're not as strong as Tinkaton Hammer, but I mean 120 power is still very, very good, obviously. So yeah, Soul Crush, I mean, it's a very fitting move with the crush and shit, Tinkaton with the hammer and shit. Kerfuffle, Play Rough is 100 base power, 100% accurate recoil move, so that's very good for earlier in the game. And also for spammability, because Play Rough can be used multiple times in a row, while Soul Crush can't. Kerfuffle is Fairy type Outrage, very risky for the AI, for the player to use. I would not recommend using it very much, which is why it's so early. I can't really change the effect of moves like that, sadly. I wish I could. But either way, I mean, it's definitely good. You have to be very careful. Basically, once you click that shit, you have to be prepared to stay in for 3 turns. And in a Nuzlocke, that can be a death sentence if you can't switch out after 3 turns. You're locked in, right? So very risky, but obviously very powerful. 130 power, very, very good. Even stronger than Soul Crush. So for certain fights, especially with Unburden, you could definitely use Kerfuffle with like Quick Claw Unburden. Speaking of Unburden, yes, it is buffed. Also flavor-wise, why I chose Unburden. I like giving Unburden to Pokemon with like big objects as part of the design, like especially Tinkaton, right? Like this guy, if you see them in the anime, and even their natural speed stat is like pretty high because they're like kind of agile despite having this big ass hammer, so like they kind of run around and shit. But also I like the idea that if they lose that hammer, they become incredibly fast. I really like that idea, so I just think it's cute. I give it stuff like Homala as well, mons like that where they have like that big object as part of their design. I think it's cool. To give them Unburden, flavor-wise. And then, of course, gameplay-wise, you have Steelworker for the big boy stab. Not just Tinkaton Hammer, but also early game you have Vise Grip, which is very powerful with Steelworker. Steelworker in general is incredibly powerful because it's a 1.5 boost on top of stab, so it's a 2.25 boost. It's stronger than adaptability, much stronger, 25% stronger than adaptability. So Vise Grip, very good, even on bulkier sets because it's a guaranteed trapping move, 60 base power, 100% accurate. It traps the opponent. Heavy Slam can be situationally powerful depending on how heavy the opponent is. Of course, I also give them Heat Crash because I think them slamming with the hammer, also kind of forging the hammer out of like fire or whatever. It's a TM. I think you can reach Heat Crash. Didn't give them the Elemental Punches. I was debating it pretty heavily, but I opted. I think it's cooler to make them rely on the hammer moves for strong coverage. Supercell Slam is also a flavor move, like hammer. It's slam. I like the idea of it. I wouldn't see them using their body for Supercell Slam as much as using the hammer to do it, so that's why I gave them that as well. Giga Impact, obviously very strong. All these moves with Hammer Time are very, very good. All of the coverage moves, getting stabbed with Hammer Time is great. Not to mention, defensively, Hammer Time is also very good. Support-wise, this Pokemon is obviously incredible. I mean, the typing is very good defensively. One of the best defensive typings in the game. It has a lot of resistances, which is the most important thing in game, is resistances. And also limited weaknesses, but that's not as important. When you're fighting against AI, which is predictable and can be played around easily. Still good. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have less weaknesses, but it's not nearly as significant as people think it is, or make it out to be. Regardless, very good type combo. I mean, obviously, I don't need to explain it very much. Yeah, Steelworker Unburden. So again, you have one ability for speed. Unburden, very easy to trigger, not only with single-use Quick Claw, it's a consumable item, that's how Unburden is buffed, but a lot of the boss fights you might want to run your Quick Claw on somebody else. On another one of your Pokemon, because there's item claws. So as you can see here on screen, you can read a little bit more if you want more information, but there are tons of cool ways you can trigger Unburden outside of Quick Claw. Endure Lychee Berry is incredibly consistent versus AI, very easy to pull off, and that's very strong, plus 2 speed, plus 1 attack in 1 turn. The downside is you use up your single Endure PP, so you can't use it later, versus if there's a Quick Claw Pokemon coming up on the AI's team, you can't Endure, you have to switch out, otherwise you die. Unless you have a strong priority move, like Befuddle is really your only, outside of First Impression and Sucker Punch. Befuddle is your main, Fairy type, Shadow Sneak type of move, which is priority, but it's only 45 base power, so I mean, at +1, 125 base attack, it's strong. So if the Pokemon's weak to it, you know, it'll die maybe. Like if it's a frail Pokemon that's weak to Fairy, you can maybe kill it and then cheese the Quick Claw, but that's not always going to work out. Not to mention, I mean, obviously you have Move Learner, but you still only have 4 move slots, so you might not be able to afford it depending on how much you want to kill. Um, Obviously, you can do full sweeps. It's going to depend on the way I structure the boss fights and stuff. We'll see as the game progresses and after release how much stuff needs to be tweaked in regards to sweeping and stuff. Worst case, I can just have an optional rule to not allow setup moves. It's not a big deal. But for now, I mean, there's a lot of nerfs put into place. You can read about that in the Google Sheet. I'm not going to talk about it here. But there are a lot of nerfs to set up put into place. And also the AI itself is very punishing. At least I'm going to try to make it very punishing in regards to getting set up easily. So yeah, Hammer Time, great for stab. Also, even defensively, it's very good because in Gen 9, Libero and Protean function like they basically can only be triggered once until you switch out, as opposed to changing each time you use a move. So say you click Dragon Ham, I don't know. Okay, so for example, your Fairy Steel, let's say you're baiting a strong Water type move, right? And then you click Wood Hammer, and you're not OHKOing them for whatever reason. I don't know. You get my or Grass Knot or something for earlier in the game, I guess. You click Grass Knot. Physical Grass Knot, you click that, you do over half, and now you resist the water move, right? And then you can 2-hit KO them with Grass Knot again. Point is, you can definitely use Hammer Time very strategically, not just for damage, but for defensive utility to change your type. Obviously, you have Terra, but it's only once per battle, and you might want to use it on somebody else, and you also can't guarantee your Terra type, at least not intended. Read more in the description about that and why I have RNG for Terra type. You can also watch the video for more information, but you're intended to randomize it, so you might not get the type that you need in that specific context, and therefore changing your type with Hammer Time, very, very good. The babies have Wimp Out into Tactical Retreat. Tactical Retreat is the exact same thing functionally as Wimp Out, it's just a flavor choice. I wanted to get them Prankster, but Clef Key exists, and obviously I can't take away Clef Key Prankster, and honestly these two would be very similar in regards to what they do with Prankster, because so here's another competitively brain thing that bothers me. People will talk about Knockoff and Thunderwave and I don't know what else. Knockoff T-Wave. What's the other thing? Oh, Stealth Rock. Shit like Hazards, right? Like Hazards, Paralysis, Knockoff. That type of stuff is great in 6v6 singles when you're fighting against a real human being who is switching around constantly. Because Knockoff removes the item for the course of the entire game. Games last much longer versus a real player because of the fact that they're switching around. I mean, it's a completely different dynamic, right? The fact that AI doesn't switch completely changes the dynamic of how this game is played. And then of course the fact that AI is predictable changes it even more. Meanwhile, a human player, I mean, it's predictable, but it's not consistent. It's not always going to do the same thing for the most part every time. So stuff like Knockoff, I mean, it's good for damage, and like there might be some cases where you want to remove an item, but it's not. It's very. I mean, you'd be better off just trying to kill it or debuff it with a debuffing move like Charm or Befriend, which is special Charm. Metal Sound, which is 10 levels after Befriend, which is now -2 special attack and Spadef, 100% accurate, so that's an even better version of Befriend later on. 1 PP though, so as opposed to Befriend's 2, so Befriend still has use because you can do it twice. Meanwhile, you can only do Metal Sound once. Yeah, tons of great. I mean, utility. I would say the more important utility on this Pokemon is stuff like Sleep, like in-game pivoting, Sleep, Burn, anything that's consistent. And in this game, Sleep is consistent. So Sleep. Otherwise, I would say Sleep is ass. If it's randomized, I mean, it's very. I mean, it's not horrible, but you would basically one turn only in vanilla if you're playing, you know, in terms of prepping safely. But Burn is consistent. Burn is very good for player. Sleep is very good for player. Pivoting is very good for player. Debuffing, aka dropping attacking stats, is very, very good because the AI isn't switching out very often to remove those stat boosts. Meanwhile, in competitive, in singles especially debuffing moves are very niche. Not horrible, but niche. In doubles, it's a little bit better because it's faster paced. But in game, it's especially like, you know, yeah, especially good. So yeah, that's the main thing. It's just debuffing moves, sleep moves, and pivot moves, which they get plenty of. Also healing moves, they get plenty of. 2 of those. So Fortify is Steel type recover. I see them using that as they are fortifying the hammer. And then Wish, without Protect, isn't that good, but it's definitely good for team support if you want to like Wish into a Baton Pass or U-turn. Obviously, they don't have the highest base HP, but you can still make it work if you need that extra little tiny bit of HP on whatever you're switching in for whatever reason. Again, with Move Learner, tons of these more niche moves can be useful for sure. Baby Doll Eyes, Play Nice are priority versions of one another, just special and physical, -1. Fake Out is obviously useful for a good amount of cases with Move Learner, just to, you know, give a little bit of extra chip if you need it for range on something, or with Unburden, whatever it is. I mean, tons of ways you can abuse Fake Out. Pummel and Wallop are great with loaded dice. Wallop and Pummel being Fairy and Fighting type Bullet Seed, so those are very good. Hoodwink, reliable, 80 base power, also steals an item, so you can use that with Unburden. That's pretty sick. Like, use up your item with whatever. Again, Endure strats. I didn't cover this earlier, but Endure strats, White Herb, Giga Impact / Hammer Arm is very good. Weakness Policy, Endure, Unburden is crazy. All types of fun, incredible ways you can abuse Unburden. Unburden versus AI is incredible, even without the buffed Quick Claw, but with buffed Quick Claw, it's like, wow. But even without, it's very easy to trigger. And again, you might want to always run your Quick Claw on somebody else, so it's not always the best item to run on an Unburden Pokemon if you want to use it on somebody else. Because of how good Quick Claw is, you might want to save it. Alright, I'm at 15 minutes, not too bad. Yeah, like I said earlier, your Fairy Stabs, obviously Soul Crush is stronger than Play Rough, but Play Rough has the advantage of being able to use multiple times in a row, while Soul Crush cannot be used twice in a row. So that's the choice there. So with Unburdened sets, especially, Play Rough is definitely going to be better. And then, of course, you also don't get Soul Crush until a good bit later than you get Play Rough, so that's another thing. But Play Rough in general is good, consistent. Stab. How don't I not talk about this yet? Steelworker, Hard Press, because a lot of people might look at Steelworker and be like, oh, I'm just not going to touch that until I get Gigaton Hammer, but that's not how this game is balanced. You're supposed to be switching your abilities constantly, depending on the situation. So if you need that extra, giant steel nuke, regardless of Gigaton Hammer or not, you're still going to use. Hard Press, 100 base power, Steelworker, even on Tinkatuff, that's 85 attack, 1.5, 1.5. It's a strong ass move, dude. You can definitely use that to get some kills you wouldn't be able to get with Hammer Time on Tinkaton. Although, again, Hammer Time is great, very versatile ability. You can change your type. It's very fun. I mean, I love it. Also, the main sole reason I gave it is because of the fact that it gives them stab on the other hammer moves. Those 4 hammer moves. And then other cool moves like Supercell Slam and these other, cute little flavor moves. Strength, Brutal Swing, Rock, and Dark type Double Edge. Double Edge itself is also good with Hammer Time because normal stab is nice and hits a lot of stuff for neutral, and it's also 125 power as opposed to 120 like all the other recoil moves. Giga Impact is normal type physical Draco Meteor, so that's very good. It's tons of fun ways you can build Tinkaton in this game. And as for people who really prefer that more supportive role, again, you're supposed to be switching to a supportive. I mean, it really depends on your team, the point in the game you're at, your preferred playstyle, whatever. But because of the fact that you have that infinite move relearner, infinite EV, you can instantly customize your EVs, all that stuff. There's definitely going to be a lot of situations where you want to run like a bulky baton pass pivot Tinkatuff, and then the next fight you're going to run a purely offensive one. Next fight you run a support Hammer Time one, whatever. And as for Wimp Out and Tactical Retreat, switching to those abilities versus AI is very, very useful to pivot and get that free switch. Very, very useful for sure because it doesn't take a whole turn, right? So if you are for sure that you'll get into range to trigger that ability, then very, very useful because, again, AI, it's predictable. You can plan out everything turn by turn and get that to trigger when you most want it to. Boulder Bash is also really good. Rock coverage for early on. 90 base power always drops defense before you get Rock Slide, which is 95 and 100% accurate, but obviously it doesn't drop defense, so there's just a little bit of a use case, like Boulder Bash into fucking Befuddle or something is definitely worth it in some cases. Yeah, I think I've covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. Again, don't be competitively brained. Dreamy Kiss, Sleep Move, 85 accuracy, run wide lens, it doesn't miss. Good, consistent sleep move, always lasts for 2 turns. You can use that with Unburden, although you can't run wide lens with Unburden, so probably not. You can use that with, other, with Hammer Time or Steelworker then, because, yeah, or Tactical Retreat on like an Violite Tinkatuff. Speaking of, didn't cover that yet, but yes, Tinkatuff is an optional evolution, because I know there's some people who want Tinkaton to be super bulky. It is, for the record. 65, 112, 112 is very tanky. On the special side, it is frailer than it was in vanilla because it lost HP, but on the physical side, I haven't done the calcs, but I'm pretty sure it's at least almost as bulky. I think it's probably bulkier overall on the physical side, which makes more sense for its design anyways, given that it has a giant hammer. And then, of course, 65, 112, 112 was still great. And then Tinkatuff, 65, 92, 92, its defenses are roughly equal to, I believe, 160, 161-ish equivalent with a Violite, so that's very, very, very bulky with that great defensive typing. And it's still really quick and pretty strong. Obviously not nearly as strong as Tinkaton, but it's pretty strong, especially with Steelworker, so you can totally keep Tinkatuff for more utility, even defensive-oriented, if you want, or at least delay it for a little bit. So yeah, thank you for listening. Excuse me. If you have any more questions, leave a comment down below, but let me know if you made it this far into the video. I'm at 20 minutes, so we're done now. Peace.